All right, I just want to do a quick introduction to a message that I'm going to be putting on here, an old recording from an old tape that I had. This basically is a professor. His name's Alex Underwood, and he was a professor at Tennessee Temple University, and he was fired from there because he believed the King James Bible was perfect, because he's a Bible believer. Some called him a Ruckmanite, okay, because he went and he committed the horrible sin of actually going to see Dr. Ruckman preach. And because of that, he was fired from the Bible college there, the Tennessee Temple Bible College. Okay. So this, some of this talk that is on YouTube here, and that you'll get from the Alexandrian cult, is they'll say that the King James only movement is a cult. No. Okay. We will read other materials. You've seen me with my other Bibles and things like that. We're not the cult, okay? But the new versionists, you go to some of these new version churches, they will not even allow King James only type materials into their churches. They are the cults, okay? And a quote-unquote Bible college that would fire one of its professors simply because he believed the King James Bible was perfect, and because he went to see Peter Ruckman, that's a cult, okay? A cult, not occult. Let me define that. So here's the recording. He has another message where he gets into more detail. I'm going to put that on our sermon audio account so you can hear it there. It's like 45 minutes in length, so I didn't want to split it up into little 3 parts or something here on YouTube. So the full thing is at sermon audio of another message that he did. I'm going to put the link to it down in the description area there, so you can go to listen to it. So I'm going to be putting up some screenshots too of Tennessee Temple University's current website. Okay, and you aren't going to believe some of the stuff that they have on there. So that's it. I hope you enjoy the recording.
Now, I send this because I am presently no longer employed on the faculty of Tennessee Temple. And I thought I might send this to you and let you know just exactly what happened to me and know how it came about, although we talked about this when we went out to eat and fellowshipped together down at Brother Dave Reese's. And I remember you telling me then that I would not last at the school believing the way I believe. Well, you're more of a prophet than I gave you credit for. But basically what happened, I related to you down at Brother Dave's, of course, how that they called me up before staff about 2 years ago because I believed the King James Bible. And I told them then that I believed it was perfect and without proven error, and that's where I stood, and they just about went bananas, as the modern phrase goes. And of course tried to put me down and tried to say, now you have to watch out for Dr. Ruckman. He's a mean, nasty old man. He's divorced, which has nothing to do with Bible belief. And every argument I know you've heard against yourself and other people brought up trying to persuade me to watch what I was doing. So that came to pass. And then the following summer, which was last summer of '78, you were at Brother Dave Reese's, and I came down to hear you, enjoyed some of the greatest preaching I've heard. We had good fellowship, played softball. We just had a big time in the Lord. No problems whatsoever. And of course, when I got back to camp, it was about 2 weeks back to camp, back to school. I thought I was in boot camp. But when I got back to school, about 2 weeks later, Dr. Affman stopped me in the dining hall and asked me personally, he said, now, did you go down to Brother Reese's church? Well, of course, he knew that I went because Dave and I are good personal friends. And he gets your newsletter every month, which I'm sure is a real thrill to him. But I said, yes, I did. And he just blew his stack. He said, you are disloyal to the school, disloyal to me, disloyal to all your friends by going to hear a man like me, no Dr. Ruckman. Well, of course, I don't know how much loyalty to the school and friends comes above loyalty to God and His Word, but evidently to Dr. Affman, it comes far above it. So I let it ride. Well, evidently Dr. Affman either went to Dr. Roberson personally or went to Dr. Faulkner, his Bob Jones cohort, which I'm not saying anything against the men. I have nothing against them personally. But evidently went to them and, of course, told them what happened. And a couple of weeks after that, Dr. Roberson stopped me outside a faculty meeting and asked me personally if I went to hear Dr. Ruckman. I said, yes, sir, I did. He said, now, I want to tell you something. We don't believe here like Dr. Ruckman believes, which stunned me. I wasn't really sure how to take the quote. But he says, now, you're going to have to make up your mind where you stand. Well, that summer, I finally made up my mind. I told my wife, now, as long as I'm at Tennessee Temple, it's Dr. Roberson's wishes for me not to go hear Dr. Ruckman. I believe in being submissive to the authority over you, so I told my wife I would not. However, I told her at the same time, I will not bend 1 ounce on my belief in the King James Bible. If it costs me my job, I will not back down. Now, it's one thing to shoot your mouth off. It's another thing to back it up when the chips are on the line. So all through the fall, no problem. I stuck to my beliefs. I preached it. I taught it. I taught some of my kids in health class. When we would come across some things, or like in human sexuality, we were talking about childbirth, and I mentioned the passage in Matthew 1:25 where Mary gave birth to her firstborn child, and I refuted the New American Standard Version of the perpetual virginity of Mary. And ever so often the Holy Spirit would give me some gems in the class to refute out of the New American Standard. So everything seemed to go well up until about the 1st of November. Now, by this time, 2 men especially, I think, one Dr. Affman, the other Dr. Roger Martin, John R. Rice's son-in-law, but especially Dr. Martin began to make vicious, outright attacks on the King James Bible in class. Of course, he is a New American Standard man to the T. So this began to infuriate a number of the Bible school boys, and so bad that some of them were very ugly and arrogant in the class. Now, I don't completely agree with that. I think a man should be refuted in a gentlemanly manner. But, I mean, they were just belligerent in class. So a number of them decided to drop out of Tennessee Temple. I think 2 of them were going to come down to your school. So anyway, they went to Dr. Faulkner about it, and he suggested they go see Dr. Lackey, the dean of the Bible school, about it first. So they did. And Dr. Lackey drew up a petition, which he and I believe Mr. John Economitis and maybe Mr. Hartley, Brother Economitis and Mr. Hartley, good men. I think they're, in a sense, the silent believers in the King James Bible. They do not stand outwardly, make an issue out of it. So anyway, they brought a petition before staff, the staff that I was called up before to give my beliefs on. Dr. Lackey told Dr. Roberson that we need to have a stand, an official stand of the school, as to this Bible issue, because it's becoming such a boiling pot that we need to do something. So this brings us to the point of Dr. Roberson's message in chapel, which I think, if you have heard, affirms his stand on the King James, but very weak, leaves many loopholes to using other versions, and which eventually, of course, they will do away with, especially if Dr. Roberson dies, but eventually they will get a foothold again, and it'll be back to the same old story. Now, you've been through it for years, so you know how it goes. Well, after that chapel message, I met with Dr. Roberson to explain why I was absent from a church service on a Sunday night. And because I was grounded in Atlanta. Well, I wasn't grounded in Atlanta. I was up over Atlanta, and we couldn't get down on the ground because of a storm and fog. But I went by and explained. So after his message in chapel, which I hope you have a copy of and listen to, I said, Dr. Roberson, I said, I'd personally like to thank you for what you said in chapel. I said, I'm not against the school. I'm not against any man here, but you know how I believe in the King James, and we've talked about it. But I said, what you said today, I think will help some kids to stick with the King James Version simply because you told them to. Now, that's not really good enough, because the devil, just because a man says to, the devil can drag a person away and weaken them, and they won't stand just because some man said so. But I said, I appreciate what you said, and I did. And I said, now, I know there's some disagreements here, and I disagree with some men very belligerently. I don't think belligerent was the word I used, but very harshly. But I'm not against any man personally. I love every man in the Lord, and I do, and I still do. And I mentioned Dr. Martin's name. I said I think some bad things were said by him, but I said I think the students did some wrong too, and I think what you said helped to a great extent. So he smiled and shook my hand. We prayed, and everything seemed to be going fine. Now, what I'm going to tell you now, I found out after he dismissed me. Sometime between that meeting on December the 12th and January the 16th, when I was dismissed from the faculty, someone wrote Dr. Roberson 4 or 5 letters being very ugly and critical of him, of the school, of the faculty, and saying that they were weak and a number of other things, and signed my name to them. Now, I did not know about the letters until after I was fired, 2 weeks after I was fired. So Dr. Roberson took it for granted that I did write them. He never confronted me with the evidence and asked me if I did write them. So, and I did not write them. Of course, I don't feel too bad. Someone wrote a letter and signed Paul's name to it. So, you know, I'm not anywhere near the man Paul was, so I don't have too much right to complain. But he called me in his office and said, now, son, some things have come up, and I feel like I have to dismiss you. Some people have said that you would be a lot happier somewhere else than here, which in essence was probably the truth, because now that I'm out, I feel free. But he said, some people think you'd feel better down at Dr. Ruckman's school. I don't know why that always comes up. I guess it always will, but it doesn't really bother me. But this is what he said to me in closing, which I have never been able to figure out, Dr. Ruckman. He said, now, I know what you believe, and I know especially what you believe about the King James Bible. And you're absolutely correct in what you believe. He said, I don't want you to ever change any of your beliefs. I want you to stand like a rock and preach the Bible and win souls. He said, because what you believe is right. Now, here's a man that I love and admire as much as any man in the Lord. I really do. But when he dismissed me, he's sitting there telling me that what I believe is exactly right, and yet dismissing me because I believe it. I told my wife that summer that if it cost me my job, I would not bend on the King James Bible. I guess the devil or one of his demons overheard it and said, well, we'll just see about that. But by the grace of God, and I say that seriously, simply and only by God's omnipotent grace, he gave me the courage and the grace to stand for what I believe in. But I know now, from your church history tapes, I see exactly how schools go down. The school was founded and stood like a rock on the King James. And eventually over these years, they have gone from evangelism to education. They are now Tennessee Temple University. And they're borderline between education and culture. In the next few years, they'll be into culture, and after that, apostasy, and after that, it'll be all over. So, from my own personal viewpoint, I see exactly what you said on those tapes and what I've read in books and seen from history. That's how things go down.